Hi everyone, I'm Taryn and this is my very own wavetabling. And I have made that inspired by Dawson's Contrast, which is a absolutely phenomenal, I want to say little synth, because it's very focused. It's a wavetable based synth, and if you look at down here in the lower right corner, you have a little information in an about window. And there I have a link to Kontrast itself, so you can have a look at that, and a link to my website, and a donate button. Yes, I have one. So in case you kind of like all of this stuff, and you find that this gift is nice for you, you might as well give me a gift if you wish to. I'd be happy to, but only if you are really having fun with this. And this is a lot of fun. So the initial idea was just the ability to be able to create wavetable images, because that is what makes Kontrast so interesting. You can just pop in some images and it will transform them into wavetables. And this is a bit of kind of a cheat if you want, because you literally create a wavetable and it makes an image, and then you can take that image and put it into Kontrast. However, I also have added that you can export a wavetable. So then you can export or import that wavetable as well into Vital or any one of those wavetable-based synths that accept universal wavetables. But more on that some other time. Export waveform, that is actually when you record a waveform, or you somehow want to save the waveform that you analyze. So it's not your wavetable, but export waveform is just that waveform that you make. Export the project is creating a tiny little project file that saves all of your waveforms, however you have made them. We go into the details later. And there's one other thing that I added, which is kind of fun. If you have a key and you want to just save that waveform that this key has, you can right click on the key and you say export wave, and it saves this single cycle waveform as a wave file. All right, so that much about where all of this stuff can end. I'm just going to clear all, or I'm going to leave it. So I'm going to show you that now. So down here, what do we have? That's the entire tool panel. And we go to this little guy later on. So first of all, this is a little toggle for full screen or not full screen. So you can do this. Ta-da! And you can see I have exported some stuff before. All right, then you have a grid, and this grid is your grid in the background of the waveform you paint. Very, very helpful, but it's more than that, because with this grid, you also have a guide for if you want to generate waveforms, and we go into that in a second as well. I'm going to leave it at 4. So, yes. And then you have the record functions. So the moment you hit record, it records la 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 la. And then you have a waveform, and it's called recording. And you can rename this, and you call it la 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 la. And there you are. Oh, I still have another one in here. All right. So, and where does this waveform go? Well, you don't see it. And just for a little sidestep, we're going to lift the skirt. Where's the waveform? Ah, there it is. And you can see I've already hit a range selector. Yeah, so we go into the waveform stuff a little bit later. Let's first go through that tool panel down here. Okay, so here you have a play function that plays that what you've just recorded. La 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 la. So I hope, okay, yeah, I hope it wasn't too loud. I'm not having my headphones on. I trust that it all works. I'm not in the mood to wear headphones right now. Okay, so record, play, and you can delete your waveform again. Which one was that? Ta-da! Oh, it doesn't matter. Let's delete it. Okay, and then we go to la la la. Okay, good. Well, you see it's all a little rogue still, so you will see that there are a bunch of things that could be nicer, but this is roughly a month of development, not quite, 3 weeks plus. And a lot of the stuff is stuff I've done for the first time, so it's kind of wicked. And stuff I hadn't done in a long time. Anyhow, enough with the excuses. Record, delete, play, select your waveform. Here comes your overall volume, and we have to look at a little quirk later on. Later on. All right, and then you have your tuning. Ah, and there's another thing. When you're on a dial, you can also just double click it and then you can enter a concrete value. And there you go. So double click on a dial gives you a numerical input. Then we have the performance mode. The moment you turn this on, you can play with your mouse up here. And we go into more details in a moment as well. FX turns on a delay. I just hooked up a little delay just for some fun. It's too much fun not to. Maybe later on I make this a full-on effects section for no reason whatsoever, because, this is just fun. Whereby the performance mode is a little more than just fun, because this way you can play the single cycle exactly at the frequency you have in mind for it. So when you later on put that wavetable into synths like that, especially like KONTRAST, then you know what to do. So you can check whether, that single cycle performs nice at the note that you intended it to be, or listen to what it sounds like, and you can do all your adjustments in here while you're listening to it. Play this one here, plays the single cycle that you have up right now. And at that tuning, it's very low. Okay, very loud. Maybe I make it a bit quieter. I'm assuming it is very loud. I hear something in the corner where my headphones are lying. Okay, so plays the single cycle. And it does so real time. So you can do any kind of adjustments. And, be happy. So, yes. Oh, smooth is very nice. Ta-da! Okay, and then next, let me stop this. You have, yeah, of course, the tool selector. So here you have a bunch of tools. The normal pen, which is really just like, drawing directly. And for that you have a little controller for a lag, so for smoothing your stroke. So if you crank it all the way up, let's go to 1, and you'll see it just follows very slowly your mouse there. Yeah. Okay. Right? And then you have a brush, which was the first thing I had in there. And it's still nice, but I don't know. Anyhow, so there you can see also the brush size. And this is that dial. And you can see how your brush size changes. And so you can make stuff like that, if you wanted that. Ta-da-dee-da-da. Right, and you can see it wraps around, which is rather important to know, and something nice to take advantage of. And then next comes a pull, and pull is a very interesting one. That was, I just basically implemented it, and it's not quite 100% what I want, but it's pretty close and very, very cool. So you can make these adjustments to your wave by just pulling the way it looks right now. And that way you can do little offsets and stuff like that. Yeah, you will see. This is very, very nice to use. But now comes a really important one. Maybe I should put that one above it. And that's the smoother. You've seen it already, smooth. So again, the radius is always consistent, and you can therefore smooth whatever is under your cursor, like so. And we can make it a bit smaller. Okay. Then comes stretch, and stretch is a bit more exciting. And initially that was when I started extracting waveforms. I wanted, for example, to have the loop at a different point. Let's say I have, a zero crossing, and I drag the zero crossing all the way to the border, and I have another zero crossing, and I drag that all the way to the border. And now I have a fairly decent cycle. Whoop. Okay. Wow, look at that. Smooth. Oink. That's one way of doing it, but there are many ways. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Anyhow, so stretch has this so-called hard mode, and this is stretch horizontal, right? Tick, 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 horizontal. And you can see it is hard when I grab this over here, and it starts to get a kink when you bend it more. God, it sounds so tempting. Anyhow, so there's that. And the other thing too is, um, I have not hooked up an undo yet. I will do that too, but so far, be warned, currently there's no undo in here. So yeah, it'll be fun. Lots of happy accidents. So that's the hard mode, you see, kinky. It's irresistible. And then there's a soft mode. And for lack of a better symbol, I just switched to that nice little circle that normally is for record, but who cares? So this is the soft mode. You toggle hard, soft. And then when you do that, you see there is not quite such a kink because it does a soft stretch, a soft squeeze. And that is really, really nice, you'll see, for adjusting the timbre, the tone of your sample. Okay, so there's that. And next, also, so this is a horizontal mode, right? But you also have a vertical mode, and that responds also to hard or soft. So if I have hard, it literally, you see how it gets like this kink there. It just grabs it. Wherever you grab it with your mouse, this is what moves with your mouse. And so you can do stuff like that. And for example, I wanted to have the sample at a zero crossing next, so then this would happen. Of course, I screwed it up over there. La 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 la. Nothing to see here. All good. Okay, back to stretch. So this is the vertical stretch. Horizontal, vertical. And you can go into a soft mode too. And there it does a much softer blend. You can see it doesn't kink right away. If you go all the way, I have it, squeeze against the extremes. You can go beyond it, but it just tries to help you and stay within your -1 to 1 region. Okay, so that's the soft stretch. Now we have scale. And scale by default is horizontal as well. And it is a sync. It's like a hard sync, I suppose. But you can see maybe, if you look at it, around the loop wrap area, it goes to 0 to keep the sync, loop fine. And you can increase the range of how far it fades out as you do that. You see, you get this. Ta-da, da-da-da-da. Are you wondering what this sounds like? It sounds nasty. Okay. I right-click by accident. We get to all of that goodness in a second. That's fun. So this is scale horizontally. And then you have also a vertical scale, which is sort of kind of nonsensical in a way, but I wanted to have it in there not only for consistency's sake, but if you have a wavetable arranged with lots of these keys, you might want to go ahead and have one of them, quieter, and so you can just select it and then scale it down like so, right? So that's the vertical scale. And the other thing too is it also does it. Hang on, I'm gonna do something nasty. Yeah, nope. I forgot to hook up that it also fades off with that little border fader. Later, it's gonna come. But yeah, so there you go. This is your scale tool. Let's bring it to reason. Also, if you actually put that to 0, then it would, of course, do nothing to the borders, in case you want to have a really brutal sync. And it is really brutal. All right. Let me remove this one. Ta-da! So, what next? Rotate. Rotate is exactly what you would think it is. It rotates the waveform. It's like a phase offset. It offsets the phase. And this is very, very helpful for a great many reasons. And one of them is if you see the wavetables next to each other like that, you can grab your cycle and rotate it if you wanted to match it, for example, in some way or another. So there's that. Rotate doesn't do much. Okay, so that was the tools. Right. And next comes my little Randall. Rand all. So this is a randomizer. Clickety click, and then you get random waveforms. And this actually alternates between sort of a musical randomness and a totally wicked rand-all randomness. And randomness? Yes, it's a randomness. Anyhow, I thought it was lovely because I did actually work together with ChatGPT, who I ended up calling rand-all. And at some point I was making an experiment. Because normally I would just take little snippets and informations and learn about JavaScript extra stuff that I didn't know before. I hardly ever let him write something completely. And so I asked him, I gave him instructions to be inventive. I gave him some hints on what he should look into and so forth. And I told him, make a randomizer that, essentially tries to consider spectral changes and maybe your vocal elements and all that. And, go wild. And I did it in such a way that he could. And so he ended up creating this, and I thought it was absolutely impressive. Really, really fun. But yeah, so there you can click on little Randall, and he gives you some randomization. All right, then the export functions you've already seen. And of course, this you've already seen as well. And you can also now see why familiar is Randall. That's cute. Yes. Okay, so on the rail, this is your keyframe master. You can do things like clear all, and then it's all cleared. And what I have to say about this is kind of an interesting little snippet on the side. These keys now by default have a tune assignment. So if I make, for example, this lowest key, and I go to my last key and I make a last key like so, and I rotate this one around to whatever, connect this. Doesn't have to be all that smooth. And then some really smooth stuff. So, and now I'm gonna normalize this. Bunk. I could have also gotten into that menu now, but I'm first gonna go to the keys. So these keys have a frequency assignment, and that can instantly give you a chance to explore the performance mode. So when you click on these keys, you go into performance mode. And now when you hit play, you can play up here in your wavetable image. Right? And so by default I have them 2 octaves apart, so you can have a little bit something, wiggle room to play. Turn on effects and you get stuff like that. Well, you can imagine what this all is gonna do. Okay, so that is that. And also, when you now click anywhere on the rail, it creates a new keyframe and it grabs the wave it sees above it. And so now you can go ahead and modify this one. For example, let's stretch it a bit and let's actually let it play. Horizontally. Right? For example. So there's that. And the other thing, if you have a whole bunch of, you make a whole bunch of keys like so, doesn't matter. They also remember where in the tuning they would have, well, they were, and it puts the tuning into the key. Now, because I keep talking about the tuning, if you right click on a selected key, actually if a key is selected and you right click, it's much more interesting to say. You can say set tune and it brings up this little dial, and so you can tune that key any which way you like. So this would sound totally stupid. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that tune back to what it was. Oh, something like that. All right. Yes. So that was set tune. So if you have a key selected and you click anywhere else, it still sees that key as selected. So if you do something like copy and you paste, it pastes whatever was selected where you pasted, right? Also remove. What else is in here? Distribute all. Now that's kind of funny because they all have now the tuning that was according to where you created it. And if you say distribute all, it distributes all the keys evenly. I don't even... Do I want to know what this sounds like? Let's try. Well, you know. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna turn on the turn off the effects because yeah, it's just fun later on. And you can have a macro. Yes, I will add a lot more macros at the moment I see fit, so to say. And one of them is normalize, and it will go through all the keys and radically normalize them. So now all the keys are normalized. A nice reminder, there's no undo, so be aware. The good thing about normalize is that it doesn't destroy the key. It just basically normalizes it so your waveform stays intact. It's just ideal for what volume it can produce. And the other one, that's the one where you kind of want to watch out. That is harmonize. This is a huge, big barrel of, or can of worms. Because harmonized is something very complex that becomes more interesting later on. And that it tries to understand, it analyzes your cycle for its partial content, for all the nice little intricacies in the frequencies. And it will try to understand what fundamental you were after. Because if, for example, you do a curve, let's say, let's take the pen and let's do something like that. So now you can see, ooh, this one doesn't end where this one starts. So either this is some weird kind of saw, or maybe it wanted to have a different fundamental. So what it will try, harmonize, is it will try to figure out what the fundamental was supposed to be, then analyze all the existing high frequency spectral, the partials of it, and then it takes the partials and pushes them right into the harmonic series it would develop based on the fundamental it has detected. In other words, it makes everything loop perfectly, all the little spectral specs. On a single cycle, that's a little ambitious, but later on this will get exciting once we start to look into recording and grabbing little pieces of it to make single cycles of them. Anyway, if I say harmonize now, you will see how radically it changes the entire table. Quack. But let's listen to what it did. It still sounds kind of like the same, except now it is harmonically stable as each cycle. And that's that. So that was the macro and clear all you've seen. And export wave I introduced to you as well, so you can export just a single key and it'll do so. All right, that was that. I have a whole bunch of things planned for the key rail, also a different look because those balls, you were kind of cute early on, but I think I want to do something nicer. And yeah, so the rail will get a bit more functionality later on, depending on how well everything goes and how much you like it too, of course. And yeah, but also how much I like it. And I must admit, I really, really love it, and for reasons that you hopefully will get to see as well. Okay, let's take my stupid little snippet that I recorded. Oh, one other thing I should mention. When you play up here, let me make a waveform there. When you play up here, you can hear, if you play up here, it's the volume is loud, and if you play down here, the volume goes quiet. So this gives you dynamic control. But I forgot to reset it, so when you're playing down here and the volume is low, and then you continue with making stuff, and suddenly you think, where's the volume? So I have to fix that. Anyhow, just stop playing up there. And now you can hear la 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 everything else again properly. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of wave editing. So first I'm just gonna normalize this. So it has a whole bunch of also extra functions. Oh my, I didn't even go into the extra functions of the single cycle yet. Oh, we'll do that at some other point. But this is too much fun to wait for too long. Okay, Yeah, you can see a bunch of functions in here already. Anyhow, so I recorded this, and maybe I should wear my headphones so I hear what I'm doing. But that's the fun part. Let's do it without me hearing what I'm doing. So down here with the middle mouse button, you can drag this around, and with the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out. So there's the navigation. That's all. The next thing is with the left mouse button, you actually create ranges. And the way I have it is that you first drag out the range, and then you can adjust the end. But when you adjust the beginning, it shifts the whole thing. And I find that very practical, especially if you kind of come to like some kind of specific cycle and you just want to shift the cycle. I thought it's practical. It doesn't matter. If you click anywhere out there, one single click and your range is gone. All right, so there's that. Also, if you just hit play, la, 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 it plays the whole waveform. But the moment you make a range, it just plays that range. La. That's all. Okay, now let's take that little range, and I'm trying to check. Oh, I'm going to wear my headphones now, just so I know. So, yes, let me play. Okay, I can grab any good moment in here, like that. Like that's a good moment. All right. And now when I have a key selected, right, and I go right click, I say analyze. And now it has analyzed, it has found the most likely fundamental that was across this entire segment. Then it has analyzed this fundamental and its partials, exactly how I was describing it to you earlier with the harmonization. It takes the partials that it finds and it basically quantizes them to the harmonic series above the fundamental it has found. And the result is this. And if I turn the tuning to 1, and if I turn the performance mode on, aha! There I am. That's what it found out of this thing. Imagine that. So now I'm going to shift this over to another place. Ambitious. Okay, let's make another key. Like, no, it doesn't matter anywhere. And I analyze this one. And now what do we have? Okay. And let's move forward to another one. How about here? Very short. Let's see what it can get out of this. Analyze that. Ha. That's what I call the function too. Okay. Do we have any more interesting stuff in here? Let's see. Somewhere here. Yep. And I'm gonna analyze this snippet. Oh. Okay. Let's make one more. Analyze. Let's see what it gets. And it gets this. Okie dokie. And there's that. And do I have any more brighter one? I don't know. Probably not. Ah. Just add this one too. Doesn't matter. Okay. So that's that. So I have analyzed this. And we got all this nice little series here. And I can go distribute, and it distributes them evenly. And we can do it with effects. Funny, huh? What a nonsense. Yes, and you can also transpose the whole thing, of course. Let's go an octave higher, times 2. Yeah. Anyhow, so that's a lot of nonsense you can do with it. And if you can sing a lot better than me, And even if you can sing worse than me, but you get more notes, you can get a very comprehensive little, theremin in your own voice. Okay, so there's that. Let me clear all of this again. Oh no, wait. While we're while we're at it, you can see how the waveforms are, next to each other in terms of their most relevant phase by these offsets. And that's where it's really nice to go in here and choose rotate, and then you can sort of align that stuff. Grab your key, align it to where you want it to be. Because even in a wavetable, you sort of, it's nice if the phase doesn't jump too much as you traverse it. Eh. All right, so there's that. Ooh, okay, now let's clear everything. You've heard it. Okay, and let's get rid of this one, and we make a new one. And let's make just one. Pa. Okay, we have a little pa. Let's see how well that works. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to say cycle finder. Okay, fundamental with such a small sample is probably going to be horrible. Oh no, it found something. Look at that. Did I have such a clean pa? Ashton, it's amazing. All right, so once it has found all of these little slices that are roughly at the fundamental of what it found, you can just click on any of these slices and it will select them, like so. And then you could extract a single cycle, like so. But you could also right-click and say loop extract, replace all keys, and this will create all the keys that it has found here up until 128. I have a limit of 128 keyframes. Yes, yeah, late disclosure, but you should know. Okay, and oh, I don't even know. Oh, no, I wasn't putting that in. Still a bunch of stuff to do. Yeah, so there now is your pa, whatever that is. And if I made a nicer sample, it would have done a nicer result. Doesn't matter, but you get the idea. So this is that. And the next one is we have all these slices. We're going to get rid of them by say clear finder, and then they're all gone. Okay. Ah, one more thing. If you select a range, you can right click and go trim, and it just trims off the rest. Okay. Next is, let's grab a little piece here and say find the zero periods. And so now it finds wherever there are zeros, right? And I can grab it around. Now it has found not one. There. Yeah. So it looks for the first one and then successively does them. And here in this case, this is exactly each size of your wavetable single cycles. So this is really brutal. And if you extract that into everyone, this will get you the exact cycle that it found. That's often not particularly useful. You will find. But it can be if you know what you're doing and if you need it. And I thought it's a nice thing to have. And you can always do, let me clear this again, also find a zero crossing inwards, and so it finds you the zero crossings that are just at the border of what you selected. If there are any, there should be. Ta-da, there. And yeah, oh yeah, I still have a few kind of semi-kinky things, and one is, for example, you see it actually interpolates for the display the wave samples, which is stupid, but I thought it was prettier. Maybe I change that later. So sometimes this will not seem to align visually with what you would expect it to do. Okay. And then you can always just extract a single cycle, and then there you go. There's that. Right? Okay. What else? That's it. You can also append if you find several nice cycles you want to keep, um, and then you don't want to destroy the rest of your keyframe arrangement. You just select the keyframe to start from, and then you say loop extract append keys, and it will squeeze them between the one you have selected and the next keyframe it finds. Whoop. And so see, now it's squeezed in there. Bang. Okay. And that's it. That's all. That's all there is. Yes. Uh, for the waveform extract. Okay, now let's go for the crazy stuff, and that is all of that. So you can generate standard waveforms like a sine wave or a triangle, saw, square, and even noise. And noise is a bit of a special case. We'll look at that in a moment. So when you generate any of these waveforms, it uses your grid amount to say how many waves. So right now the grid is on 4, so it makes 4 sine waves. If I say the grid is 3 and I generate sines, it will create 3, of course, right? Or triangles, or square saws, and so forth. You get the gist. Alright, that's that. And noise does something rather wacky. It will actually use the grid for a new sample. It's like sample and hold. So if you want to have finer noise, you can make 128 grid samples, go noise, and you see, then you get some noise. Now, at this point you say, well, this is a very harsh noise. I want it softer. And one way I'm doing that is you just pick your smooth brush and you go over it. So you have essentially a manual filter. Is that kind of funny? I thought it's cool. And you can go into stretch. And adjust it that way. Okay. Yeah, so generate waveforms. So there's that. And you can also do something even crazier. Right now I'm just going to go ahead and silence this. And that's formants. That's totally experimental. And I'm using basically like the old Amiga SAM in a way to create single cycles of what could be a vowel. Right? I'm gonna go silent and I'm gonna generate an O. Yep, deep, 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 and it's generating E. Let's generate an A. The reason for why I silence this the whole time is because this is actually a filter. Right, so that means if you have a waveform beneath it, let's make, oh no, Jesus. Let's make it silent. And let's just make any waveform. Ta-da-ti-ta. I'm gonna pen one in there. Let's play and see. Then it will actually, if you go to formants and you filter, it applies the A formants onto your waveform. Right? Okay. And there you go. So that's formats. And I have consonants, but they are a little, that's just a stand-in bullshit, really, because it creates this one noise table, and that is, it's just fun to have. It's nonsense. But later on, this will get exciting as I add more functionality to the whole GL stuff, which we go into in a second as well. All right. So those are vowels and consonants, and the M is, arbitrary. Okay. All right, almost done here. Now comes the whole transform section. And I hope these things are rather self-explanatory. You have normalize, which normalizes it. Let me, for example, change the scale here. Horizontal, vertical. And if you were to say transform normalize, it normalizes it. Right? And you have a bullshit maximize, which basically just maximizes the waveform without regarding your DC offset. And then comes the magical harmonize. Ta-da! And it will translate that into a harmonized partial arrangement. And you can see that offset? I would want that to be at 0. And I could have automated that, but instead I love using stretch in vertical mode to just go ahead and then squeeze it right to 0. I thought that is nice. Okay, where were we? Ah, yeah. Next transform is rotate 180 degrees. Boink. It rotates the face by 180 degrees. So here you can pleasantly work on the wrapping area and then later on rotate it back if you like. The next one would be flip horizontal, because I could. And the same for flip vertical. You can flip vertical if you want to. So just felt like, oh yeah, it's a transform. Let's have that. Add a cycle. That's fun. So you can basically keep adding cycles to this. And it happily cycles. And you can also remove the cycle again. And then you get this. Bunk. And you can keep removing, and then you basically end with something you don't want. But because this always doubles the cycle amount, I also added a triple cycle, and so it gives you the in-between harmonics if you wanted them. Funny, that was interesting, wasn't it? Okay. This is also a really fun opportunity to show you the power of these tools, because you see now, because it's a perfect cycle, you get a totally specific tone here. But the moment you start stretching this stuff horizontally, the fundamental comes through again. Isn't that nice? Of course, you could also go ahead and scale. Whoop, horizontally. There's that. Okay, so that was the transform, add, triple, and remove a cycle. And silence is silence. You've seen it. So I think in a nutshell, that was all there is. This is all of the wavetabling. And once you're done with that, you can just export the waveform. And let's do that. Export the image, for example. So now this has exported an image. And then once you go to your download folder, like so, then you see here's the image that we just made. And here you can see contrast inside of Reaper. And if I grab this waveform and I should grab it too. Grab it and drag it into contrast. And there you have it. And now you have your waveform. Inside of contrast. And then, for example, if you wanted to link your wavetable position to your key, to your note, you just select your X and squeeze up the keyboard. And if you wanted to have a concrete, you click on the keyboard and you click on the note. For example, do you want to be the lowest? And then you can adjust this. This is the lowest. And let's say I want this to be the highest, so I play the note. I still think it's a little funky, but that's just me. There you go. So that is how you would make use of it. Well, I hope that gave you some idea what magic lies behind the little wavetabling and contrast. Well, I think I will have to dedicate a whole video to contrast to show what wicked things you can do with it. But you know, in context with contrast, the wavetabling is like a super weapon, I find. And especially when you use recording. Oh, you can also drop wave files into it and then edit those wave files and, you know, analyze it and make your cycles out of it. That's another possibility you can do. All right, I would say I hope you liked it. I hope you find it inspiring enough to consider going to the Contrast website, going to my website, and clicking on this one. And you can see this is, you will see that's my wife's actual, yeah, PayPal. Anyhow, I would say bye for now and have fun wavetabling.